Hello and welcome. My name is Xander. I will be your instructor through this tutorial. Now, this tutorial is actually part of a whole course which you can access the first stages for free here on YouTube. Now, in this tutorial, I might mention resources and other tutorials. Do check out the link in the video description, which will take you to the playlist, and also there will be a link to the resources so that you can access and follow along here on YouTube. Now, if you like this course, you found it useful, and you want to take that next step, you can find this course over at Udemy. All the links to the resources can be found in the video description. Now, don't forget, also subscribe to the channel for weekly promotions, discounts, and free course giveaways. PostgreSQL provides powerful date and time data types with extensive functions to manipulate them. These fields are essential for handling timestamps, durations, and scheduling in databases. Taking a look at this table, it shows that there are multiple options or data types available when assigning fields that require us to store date and time. So we can create fields which store only date or time. More often than not, we require to store both date and time. So there are fields dedicated to that, the timestamp field. And where necessary, we can also store with the timestamp the time zone. So it may be obvious when you need date or time, but timestamps are typically used for logs, transactions, or event tracking. Timestamps with time zones, maybe when you're working with global applications needing time zones, and then interval. Imagine you wanted to create a membership application. We could use interval for representing durations. In the ERD, in our database design, we have only used the date time field, but it might be more appropriate in some cases to use other fields. Here in the promotion events table entity, you can see that the start date, well, that might just be the date, end date and start date. Here we specified the date time field because there may be some sort of business requirement to specify not only the date, but also the time in which the promotion starts. Now, this also could have been maybe an interval, or we could have added a new field called interval, which represents the duration of that promotion. Right, so let's take a look at the SQL needed to add these new columns. So take a look at the ERD diagram where the time or date fields are required. Here in the products table, we're going to need two columns, created at and updated at. The purpose of these is to record when the product was created and then when the product might have been updated. So we're going to use alter table again. That, as we've already determined, allows us to specify the table we want to make the changes to. And now we're going to add the column like we did previously, specified the column, and then the data type. Now, a bit later on, we're going to explore how to set the time and date automatically, because what we're going to want to do here is that whenever we create this product, we're going to need to specify the timestamp for that. And we want the actual database server to create that for us potentially. So we'll look at how we can do that at a later point, as well as updating. So when the product is updated, we need some sort of trigger to actually then append this information to include the timestamp of when the product data was updated for that particular row. So that's something else we can take a look at a later point. So I've added this in to the terminal, going to press enter, and that should alter our table. So we can now look at the products table. That should now include the new fields. So we've got now created at and updated at. So notice that we created the timestamp without time zones. You could have done that with time zone. To do that, you simply just need to inspect the documentation, look for the data type required. So that's going to be timestamp with TZ. If you wanted date, that's just going to be date. If you wanted just time, well, that's going to be the time data type. Right, so now we just need to make changes to the other tables. Again, by all means, take a look at the ERD and make those changes yourself. So here we're going to alter the stock management table and add the last checked at field. The promotion event table, we're going to need the start date and end date. So that's going to be the promotion field. Updated. Now it looks like it doesn't exist. So promotion events, column, start date, type timestamp. So it looks like we've got some sort of problem here. Column, start date of relation promotion events does not exist. So let's see if we can troubleshoot this. So first of all, we inspect the table, promotion events. So let's just make sure that we have spelt it correctly. Okay, so we're going to alter the table. Okay, and let's first of all add the first column. Okay, and what we can do there is actually use the semicolon to see if that inserts correctly. Notice that that won't work because we used the comma. So let's try that again. So notice that we've moved back into equals hashtag. So we're going to need to try that again to build our multi-line. So this time we're going to alter the column and then use a semicolon at the end. So we still receive an error. Brownie points to anyone who may have spotted the error at this point. Alter is the wrong command. So one of the issues of copy and pasting is that you don't actually learn anything because you just copy and pasting. So as always, I do recommend that you follow through and actually type out the commands if you're not already doing that, or just some of the commands to familiarize yourself. So it is add, and you can see from the other commands that is the case. So that is the problem here, right? So let's go ahead and do this one more time. Alter, and then add the first column, and then we can add the last column, and we're good to go. Or are we? So we still have a syntax error at or near the timestamp. And I promise I won't do this again. You may have already seen that there is a second error here. In actual fact, we don't need to specify type. So again, we've already specified the format here. So let's go ahead and remove the type because that again is not needed. And this time, no more messing about, it will work. There we go. So we've added those fields. So make sure that you follow those principles throughout, and let's do the last. There we go. Right. So we should now have all of those columns in place. Again, we can inspect. So let's just have a look at the orders table to see what that's looking like at the moment. So all we have in the orders table currently is the created at and updated at. If we take a look at the ERD, that is correct. We haven't discussed yet the primary and foreign keys, so that's the only fields that should appear. I did start this tutorial on the premise that PostgreSQL provides powerful date and time data types, and we haven't necessarily seen that power in this tutorial, but this is a good starting point. We've defined our date and time fields for our design, and I could have been a little bit more creative with that in terms of creating different data types, but we're going to stick with what we got for now, and maybe later on when we start querying the database, we can explore that a little bit further. And we will touch upon this again in a few tutorials time where we take a look at the default values.